of the MMAOB Daily podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. Happy Friday, everyone. We made it to the end of the week. UFC 241's tomorrow. I can't wait for that. Before I get into today's show, let me just say, follow me on Twitter at Adam Martin. And this podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com, our YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends about it, guys. I'd appreciate that. Also, check me out at bjpenn.com and MMARings.net. So, got a couple things to talk about today. Definitely a few pieces of news that are interesting. A couple signings, a couple releases, a couple fight announcements. So definitely some good stuff. But first, I wanted to mention that UFC 241 is tomorrow, and myself and Cole Shelton did a podcast on Tuesday breaking down the entire card, giving our picks for all the fights. So go back to Tuesday's episode and watch that. It was a good show. And also Cole joined me yesterday to talk about the Conor McGregor alleged bar attack video, and that's what I want to start with today. We all know what happened. Dana White didn't make a comment about the video. He said that he was aware of this. Apparently, it took place in April. So Dana White said that he's still looking into it, but he said it didn't look good. Obviously, it didn't look good. And then Khabib Nurmagomedov also made a comment about it. TMZ interviewed Khabib, and he said that he believes Conor should go to jail for the alleged bar attack. And he said that if it was him that was in the video, this would have been months ago. And honestly, it's hard to disagree. I mean, I'm not sure how this lasted 4 months out of the public eye when this happened back in April, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. You think it would have got out there already. I don't think anyone really heard about this. So, I mean, we'll see what happens as far as this goes. Dana says that right now Conor's not in any sort of serious trouble. I find that hard to believe. I mean, the guy allegedly punched the guy in the face. The video is circulating. Everyone's seen the video now. Not a good look for Conor, obviously. So we'll see what happens, but it doesn't look like the UFC is going to discipline him anyways. I mean, it's possible if there's some criminal, if he goes to jail. I mean, I don't think he's actually going to jail, but just say there is some sort of legal issue, maybe then the UFC would suspend Conor or fine him or something. But I have a hard feeling they will. I feel like they're just going to put it under the rug as usual. Conor gets away with a lot of stuff, and I think this is going to be another example of it. And Khabib's comments that you can't be surprised with Khabib said. Him and Conor are obviously huge rivals, and Conor still wants that rematch. So we'll see what happens with the Poirier fight. But yeah, it does not look like the UFC is going to do anything about this McGregor thing, and honestly, I'm not surprised by that. Next up, I wanted to mention this because I was very surprised when I saw this news. Antonio Bigfoot Silva signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, and man, I just don't like this for Bigfoot at all. You'd think his team would watch out for him. Like, this guy honestly should be retired now. All the respect in the world for Bigfoot. I mean, the guy's obviously had a tough life. He has a medical issue, of course, and he's had a good career in MMA. 19-12, one no contest record. But geez, look at his record, guys. He's won 8 and won no contest in his last 10 fights, and he's been knocked out 8 times out of his last 10 fights, including 4 of his last 5 fights by knockout. That includes a knockout loss to Vitaly Minakov in 2017. That was his last MMA fight. I really don't want to see this guy fight again. He also got knocked out in Glory, so actually he's been knocked out even more than that. It's sad to see him coming back. He obviously is doing it for the money, and I believe he does love the competition, but geez, the guy's been knocked out 10 times in MMA out of 30 fights, plus that knockout loss to Rico Verhoeven in Glory. So it's just sad. Bare Knuckle Fighting, obviously, they think they can promote a show with his name on it, and I guess I could see why. I mean, the guy is a big name. He's fought everyone. We all remember the fight with Alistair Overeem, that knockout at UFC 156, the Fedor Emelianenko fight in the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix quarterfinals. We knocked him out. He's had some good wins. I mean, Bigfoot's a guy that's had a pretty good career, but again, look at his recent records, just not good. And I've seen the comments that the fans said, and people are very worried about him. I mean, this guy has been knocked out so many times, you have to worry about him. I feel like they might match him up with Chase Sherman. That's my guess for the heavyweight title in BKFC. And I don't really like that matchup for him. I mean, I guess it's a winnable fight for Bigfoot because Chase Sherman's not great himself, but I just feel like he's going to get caught and get knocked out again. I also saw some people saying maybe Alexander Emelianenko, and I really hope this doesn't happen, but some people said Rumble Johnson could be a potential opponent. Please, no. I don't want to see him fight Rumble. I mean, that could actually be a death. So we don't want to see that happen. I don't think Bigfoot should be fighting again. I really hope that they do full medical scan on this guy because, like, geez, look at the recent record, guys. It speaks for itself. The guy hasn't won a fight since 2015 against Soa Palili, who I believe is also retired, and he has 2 wins in the last 6 years. So that's not good. And yeah, I mean, good luck, Bigfoot, but I just don't see this going well for him. Next up, Bellator has actually cut a bunch of fighters, and I want to mention this because there's a few good fighters on the list, to be honest with you, including Chris Honeycutt, which I'm a little surprised by. Chris Honeycutt actually has a good record in Bellator, 7-3, 1-0 contest. He is coming off a loss in his last fight to well, I can't remember the guy's name, Costello Van Stennis, but I still think he has some potential. And I'm a little surprised they cut him. I think he looked really good in Bellator or PFL personally. I think Chris Honeycutt looked good there in their next tournament. Also, Hisaki Kato was cut. I think he's a pretty exciting fighter. Hasn't fought in a while, but he's pretty exciting. Carrington Banks had a couple notable fights in Bellator. He was also released. Nohad Lahad, former UFC fighter. And another guy that surprised me was Chidi Njokwani. He also had a winning record in Bellator. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, but 5-3 record in Bellator when they cut him. So that's surprising. Gerard Trice was a big heavyweight prospect. He was released after a 4-0 perfect record. Roman Huerta, JJ Ambrose, Muhammad Yahya, and Nathan Grayson were the other fighters that were cut. So Bellator obviously making room for other fighters on the roster, including arguably Cris Cyborg, who, let's segue to the next news. PFL is interested in Cris Cyborg. Ray Safo said that PFL wants to sign her, but he also said that she's shopping her services right now. He thinks that Bellator is in the mix, also won championship. So we'll see what happens with Cris Cyborg. But, I mean, Cris Cyborg versus Kayla Harrison would be a fun fight. Cris Cyborg versus Sarah Kaufman would be a fun fight. There's some fun fights for her in PFL. So I think Bellator or PFL would be the greatest landing spots for Cris Cyborg, obviously outside the UFC, which I don't think at this point is going to happen. But we'll see what happens with Bellator with Cris Cyborg. But it's nice to see the PFL is actually trying to spend some money and bring her in. Speaking of the UFC, Dana White has said that Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski will not fight at UFC 243. He believes it's too soon for them to fight. Max Holloway obviously has fought a lot this year in the last 2 years, so he needs some time off. And Volkanovski, I think he is ready to go for that card, but I think he could use a little bit of time off. So maybe December, I think, would be a good time for that fight to take place in Vegas, or possibly even in New York City in November. But the October card is just too soon. I mean, that's what, 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away. It's too soon. A couple of fight announcements here before I get out of here today. UFC 243, which I just mentioned, that's in Melbourne. Jake Matthews will be fighting Rostem Akman on that card. Pretty decent little fight here. Jake Matthews, pretty solid fighter. He's 24 years old, very young. He made it in the UFC when he was 20 years old back in 2014, and since then has put together a 7-4 record. He has not fought since last December when he lost to Anthony Rocco Martin via submission, but before that had won 3 straight fights. And overall, he has a 7-4 record in the UFC, like I mentioned, so it's a pretty solid record. I think he's a pretty good fighter. He has some holes in his game, obviously, but we'll see what happens in this fight. It's Rostem Akman, who had a really good UFC debut on short notice. The guy only has 7 fights as a pro, and he went toe-to-toe with Sergey Kandozko in his debut back at UFC Fight Night Gustafson Smith. So, you know what? I think this is actually a pretty competitive fight. I obviously want to pick Matthews because he has more experience, because he's fighting at home, but don't sleep on Akman. I think this guy's actually a better fighter than many of us believed at first. And the other fight announcement that I want to mention is at UFC Vancouver, that card continues to get new fights. Chad Skelly will be taking on Jordan Griffin. And this fight was actually scrapped at a recent card, UFC and ESPN3 in Minneapolis. So it was rescheduled. Chad Skelly, 17-4 record. He is 6-4 in the UFC. So kind of not a great record, obviously, but he has some good wins. Like the Kevin Souza win a couple years ago was great, and Chris Gutzmacher submitted Maximo Blanco. So he has good submission skills, but he has been finished in his last 2 fights. So I believe he's on a bit of a downswing in his career, and he takes on Jordan Griffin in this fight. Jordan Griffin, he's only had 1 fight in the UFC, I believe, against Dan Ige. He lost that fight by a close decision. Before that, he won 4 straight fights. So the guy's pretty good. He has a lot of finishing prowess, 17-6 record, 13 wins by stoppage. We'll see what happens in this fight. I think it's going to be pretty close. But honestly, I lean a little bit towards Griffin. I just feel like Chad Skelly's on the downside of his career right now. And Griffin, I think, is a solid fighter. I mean, look at his last 2 losses to Juan Herscheleta and Dan Ige. His only 2 losses in the last 5 years. So we'll see what happens, but some good fight announcements. So that's it today, guys. Short show. I actually headed down to the Canadian exhibition today, so I'm really excited about doing that. Hopefully I can win a giant teddy bear. I'm really hoping to win a giant teddy bear. We'll see what happens there, but obviously wanted to jump in today and talk about the latest news in MMA. Again, follow me on Twitter at @MadamMartin, right there at the bottom of the screen. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com, on our YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about it, guys. I'd appreciate that. Myself and Cole Shelton did the breakdown, not the breakdown show, the preview show for UFC 241 back on Tuesday. So go back and check that show out. It was really good. I always appreciate Cole jumping on. Also check me out, guys, at djpan.com. Always writing the news there. And MMARatings.net. I'm sure I'll have an article out there. Guys, have an amazing day. It's Friday. Enjoy your weekend. UFC 241's tomorrow. It's going to be a sweet card. I can't wait. I'll be back Monday breaking down and recapping UFC 241 and what happened. Guys, have an amazing day. I'll talk to you later.